Hi there, folks. So this is the history timeline from our Venice campaign. I wanted to just sort of do a little going over, so I'm gonna have this kind of play in the background. Also notice that they have the current borders for nations in the timeline, which is super cool. So I wanted to kind of do a review and sort of a go over some parts of the playthrough, and originally I was like, well, I'll go over some of the things I think I did wrong. And as it turns out, I think most of the things I did wrong are pretty blatantly, like, clearly just lapses in judgment or sheer stupidity. And while there is certainly value in me going, hey, don't co-belligerent someone you're not going to take any land from anyway who is allied to Hungary, who is way larger than you, it's not really, like, it's not a very information-rich thing for me to say, because you kind of understand that. And when I say, you know, don't get all of Europe into a coalition against you when you're not big enough to fight it, that's also, you know, sort of pretty straightforward. So I thought what I'd go over instead is sort of a little bit higher level thought process stuff. I started off this campaign just thinking, hey, it's a new expansion, Venice sounds cool, let's play Venice and see what happens. And as it turns out, I found out Venice is weird. I didn't really have a goal for Venice until well into the campaign, you know, and when I figured out that I didn't think Venice's actual gameplay, the way it's designed by the developers to be played, was that interesting to watch necessarily, or honestly that amazing to play. So that's when I moved on to forming Italy, and then from forming Italy to forming Rome. So this video I think I'm going to talk about merchant republics in general, so, you know, just talking about how to play, I think, Venice as Venice. And I'm going to have two separate parts to the video that talk about forming Italy, nations to form Italy with, and nations to form Rome with. Actually, probably just the nation I think is best at forming Rome. Anyway, talking about Venice and merchant republics in general, if you've read the forums, you may note that people say things like merchant republics are terrible, or awful, or useless. And I'd like to speak, I mean, a little bit more, like, usefully about the subject, because that doesn't really convey much information. The thing is, there doesn't really seem to be anything that merchant republics are particularly good at. I mean, you can notice, going back, that when we went from Italy the Merchant Republic to Italy the Kingdom, like, money basically didn't change. Like, trade basically stayed the same. And that, like, that's weird, but the effects of the burgers compared to Merchant Republic is it's huge. There's just not a lot that the Merchant Republic brings you, and some of the benefits, like not having to have estates and the goods produced modifier, which is cool, like that is really cool and really helpful, are offset by the fact that you can only have 20 provinces in states if you're a merchant republic before you start losing republican tradition. Note that, like, as Rome, we have like 199 provinces in states. If we were merchant republic, like, we'd have 20. Obviously, it's not 10% less in terms of power and all, but it's still a huge difference. So I wouldn't suggest playing Venice if you want to do like a conquering game, forming a formidable nation. If you want to play Venice like they want you to play Venice, like Venice is set up to be played, you're going to need to play with a lot of vassals, or you're going to need to play with a lot of territories. Vassals probably being the better way because it makes better use of the land. I think they could really make them better if they changed something about minimum autonomy in territories, or if they could build, like, military outposts and tax outposts, like they can build trading posts, you know, just something. Or if you could just change from a merchant republic later on, like, yeah, make it difficult, but give the option, because as it is, you have to become a monarchy first, right? you have to have aristocratic ideas to be able to become an oligarchic republic. And I mean, obviously, the developers want merchant republics to be specifically different than all the other government types, but I don't really feel like what they're giving you now is very compelling. If you do, that's cool, that's great, give it a go, but keep in mind that you've got that very specific modifier, and you're pretty much going to have to be expanding through vassals. So with that in mind, I'm going to come here and close the timeline. This is back to the actual game. I took ideas in this game, sort of, I mean, you know, espionage, diplomatic, I was like, well, we can kind of make use of those qualities sort of the same way, but more or less kind of a little bit play-y, like with trade, plutocratic, and innovative. Offensive, just, it pairs so well with innovative. That siege ability, though, oh. But if you're going to want to go with that style of Merchant Republic, what I suggest you're going to want, you probably still will want trade ideas, especially if you're Venice and you have access to, you know, all of these nodes here that you can funnel into the Venice node. But plutocratic is a great idea. Other than that, though, you're going to want diplomatic and you're going to want influence, if for no reason other than the diplomatic reputation to try to keep your vassals loyal. You're also probably going to want quantity ideas for this 50% increased land force limit modifier, just so you can have enough troops to, again, try to keep them loyal. Remember, you're not a kingdom, right? You don't get the extra +1 diplomatic reputation from having high legitimacy, and you can't marry your vassals, so troops are going to be a big key in keeping them loyal. To that end, you're probably going to want to take economic ideas. You know, more money, but also, where is it? Land maintenance modifier reduction is going to be a huge help. Alternatively, you could take administrative ideas, although, again, if you're feeding vassals, even though administrative ideas is one of the best groups in the game, you're not spending near as much on coring, so it's a little less valuable. Obviously, like, you know, humanist is still great, although, again, you're not taking land as much. And honestly, espionage ideas for this, where is it? Liberty, desire, and subjects -10 may be really key. So, you know, these are things to think about if you want to actually be a merchant republic. Now I think we're going to move on to forming Italy. So, while I don't want a merchant republic necessarily if I'm going for Italy, I do kind of still like republics. I like republics a lot because they don't get regency councils or terrible kings very often. They also don't get amazing kings particularly often, but hey. And so the one I would choose, in my opinion, the go-to to form Italy for me would be Milan. They start off in an amazing position in terms of development, at least. Like, there's a ton of money and manpower to be had from Milan, and they get the Ambrosian Republic with its plus 10% tax efficiency and its plus 5% morale of armies, which is awesome. And just generally, they're in a very strong position to start off with. I mean, you know, you've got a core here on Venice who is not part of the empire. You can get started on that like right away. It's good. It's good. Other options I like that are republics are Florence. Florence is like is really strong as well, mainly because they have Tuscan ideas, which are great. I mean, Tuscan ideas include -5% idea and tech costs. They're really good. Also, they start off as an oligarchic republic, as does Lucca. Lucca can also form Tuscany, but you need these three provinces plus either one of these two, either Lucca or Siena, to form Tuscany. So obviously, Florence has a huge start, and they already have Tuscan ideas. Lucca has the Italian culture group ideas, for which the final step is plus 5%, or excuse me, plus 0.5 yearly Republican tradition, which is super strong. The rest of the idea groups, national ideas, aren't that great necessarily. They're okay to fine, basically, but that is really strong if you want to stay as a republic. Siena also can form Tuscany. You have to be Tuscan primary culture. Also can form Tuscany. Also has Italian group ideas. But they start off as an administrative republic, which is a much more advanced government type, and it has -5 years of separatism from the start. That's a huge advantage in terms of unhappiness taking over territory. So, you know, these are the ones I would look at as republics in the region, because I think they're cool. And of course, Lucca and Siena have, you know, an uphill battle because they're one province minors, even though, you know, they are pretty sizable places. Florence, of course, has a much easier time, and Milan also has a lot of development. They're reasonably large. They have a much easier time. But I mean, it's still interesting down here with either of these nations. You could also just go with one of the kingdoms, right? You could go with like Ferrara, Mantua if you wanted to. Or you could go for it with Naples. You just have to break out from under Aragon, or of course Savoy. And even with any of these monarchies, you can go. Let's see. Yeah, it does show it from the beginning. If we were to complete aristocratic and influence ideas, we could click this button and become an oligarchic republic. At which point, you know, we could then move on up the line. It's a little expensive. Forest stability is not cheap, but the option is there. Note that this adopt plutocratic administration, because of the reasons I mentioned against merchant republics in general, I wouldn't advise you to do that because you cannot change from a merchant republic to a different kind of republic without going to a monarchy first. That's just the way it is. I mean, I guess you could if you went from a monarchy to a merchant republic, because you could have the opportunity to do this, but then you should have just done this to begin with, unless you wanted to do the merchant republics. You could put trading posts in all of your various trade areas, trade nodes, but that seems awfully involved. So yeah, I think that pretty much covers that particular part. Milan, great. Oh, one more thing. Just so we're all clear, the Papal States cannot form Italy. So if you're playing as the Pope, just put that out of your mind. You can't do it. Alright? Alright, I think this next section is probably going to talk about actually nations to form Rome with. So yeah, I'll see you back in a bit. Alright, now the nation I think is best poised to run at forming the Roman Empire is the Ottomans. You know, the Ottomans seem like the best choice to form the Romans just because their monikers are so close. Okay, maybe that's not even a factor in the whole thing, but still, it's noteworthy. But the Ottomans, beyond some of the, you know, clear things, like the fact that they start off with one of the best rulers in the game, who is really young, can live a long time, and they have super good ideas, right? Starting off with discipline and tolerance of heathens. It's pretty great. Millets is amazing, and so on and so forth. Manpower recovery speed, cav combat ability. this is okay. National tax is very strong. Trade efficiency is good. Chip cost reduction is great. And then the land force limit modifier, super, super good. There's also just the fact that if you start as one of the other strongly placed contenders, right? If you start as a Castile or a France or an England, or even if you want to go with someone like Austria, some one of these European countries, it is so tough, especially in the early game, to expand through here. Getting started, getting traction is like, it takes a while over here. Meanwhile, for the Ottomans, I mean, look, you can go and you can start declaring wars immediately and just kind of not stop, right? You've got all your cores here that you can go after right away. You get amazing missions, like, well, the one you would take first is, of course, City of World's Desire. So you can go and take Constantinople, and then, oh, by the way, get a mission to increase the development by a lot, make it primary culture and the right religion, and to make it your capital. It's pretty stinking good. And then you get missions for conquering the Levant, conquering Egypt. That's another thing. You have easy access to Jerusalem, and then pretty easy access to Mecca. And if you have both of those, that's an extra +1 yearly prestige and 2 missionaries. Like, you've got 3 missionaries, you haven't even had to take religious ideas yet. It's a really strong position they're in, because on top of all of those things, look at all these little nations around who are, not as advanced. A lot of these nations, like Kara is a horde, the Timurids are a horde, Georgia is Eastern, I think? Yeah, so they're pretty even, but like the Mamluks are Muslim. Down here in Arabia, you're fighting against Muslims. These are backwards nations compared to you. And then further into Asia, it just gets more and more pronounced. You can expand all the way over here if you need more power base to push into Europe. And of course, you can also do the same through Northern Africa, which has quite a bit of development and trade and all that, and of course works towards the Mare Nostrum achievement if you were looking to do that. But of course, having said all that, I'm sure you're thinking to yourself, yeah, but in that other video you said that you can only form Rome if you're a pagan or a Catholic, and the Ottomans are Sunni, which is Muslim. And you're right, and you're really smart, you listen really well, and I'm proud of you. But we can change our religion. It really helps that we have all of these Orthodox provinces, and we're looking to take a few more, because again, like, the first thing we're going to do is just poop all over Byzantium. And I mean, we'll take the crown off and put it on our heads and be like, yeah, we're going to be Rome soon. It'll be fun. So what you need to do, right, we've got all these provinces that need to be converted because they're Orthodox. And Orthodox, as it happens, is a Catholic religion. What we need is one that has unrest. Well, damn, we're really good at keeping our people happy. Alright, you know what? It's fine. Go to the ledger. Go to... Come on. What am I looking for here? Local autonomy. So, sort by unrest. Alright, sculpture is -1. As it turns out, it is also Orthodox. Alright, we will send a missionary here. Alright. Now, how long will it take this missionary? He currently has negative progress, so that's good. That's good. We don't want him to convert the province. That gives us 4.1 unrest. That's not very high. Yeah, it says here the revolt will be in about 21.3 years. It also says there's Serbian separatists, but that will change when it ticks over. So, since that's not quick enough, let's just go ahead and reduce autonomy and raise that by quite a bit. Yeah, see, now we're talking 6.8 years, and as we get war exhaustion, maybe get a little bit of overextension, that will get even higher. Now, the thing to keep in mind is I'm doing this for illustrative purposes. You want to wait until you make Constantinople your capital, just because it's free development if you do that first. But you don't really have to wait much beyond that. You know, you can kind of figure out for yourself when the best timing is, but I kind of think earlier is probably better, because the longer you wait, like the more involved it is to convert everything, so on and so forth. And in fact, just to demonstrate this, so we're all clear and on the same page, let's move to speed 5 here, go to the end of the month, and see, yes, they are now Orthodox zealots in Skopje. I mean, I believe there's separatism here. No, actually there's not. I'm not entirely sure why that went down a little bit. I mean, maybe there was and it went away, but still. So that's what you want to do for the Ottomans to get started on forming Rome. Other than that, I mean, it's just you take the things you need to take, and honestly, a lot of the stuff through here is stuff you need anyway, right? I mean, looking at the regions map mode, most of our, actually I think all of our claims are either in Anatolia or the Balkans, and of course the Levant is all in Maastricht. And of course we need Cairo, which is part of Egypt. You know, a lot of this works towards forming Rome anyway. So yeah, the Ottomans are my #1 choice. Obviously you can do like we did, form Italy, or you can take France, Castile if you want more of a challenge. Remember, the only tag nations that cannot form Rome are the Papal States and the fully integrated Holy Roman Empire. That means after this Renovatio Imperii has been clicked and the tag of the nation has turned to Holy Roman Empire. Empire. Any other nation, as long as they can own all of those territories and be either pagan or Christian religion, anything under either of those umbrellas, can form Rome. So, you know, let your mind go wild if you really want a challenge. Like you take Uzbek, who start off Sunni, right? They start off Sunni, but there's a lot of Tengri land through here. You could try to form Bukhara, get that extra free development, and then see what you can do about turning Tengri. You know, just let your mind run wild if you really want a challenge. But if you want to do like the most straightforward way, I think the Ottomans are what you're looking for. Thanks for watching, folks. I hope all of this has been enjoyable or informational, or at least that much of a drain on your time. And yeah, I hope to see you some other time. Cheers.